Derek, you talked a lot about time for self-reflection or reflect on once the season was over. What are some of the things you think need to be reflected on now during the, not just today, but the off season?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things. Obviously, there's some improvement. That's pretty obvious. You look at the black and white improvement, we improved 11 points. You can also look at it, black and white, is we missed the playoffs. And that's been hockey for 100 years, making the playoffs. Probably, I'll sound repetitive, but I think our guys are finding out it's still about probably keeping it out of our net. Obviously, we scored a ton more goals this year. We went from 26th to 13th in goals for. Those goals helped us, but when you want to keep pushing and you hope to get over that line, I still think it's how you play your team defense and keeping it out of your net going forward. And there's some positives there. Actually, goals against improved from a year ago. We went from 275 to 273. Shots against per game actually went up almost 2, not quite 2 a game. And I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but it ends up being volume. And you're spending more time in your zone than you want. But a positive underlying with our defense, grade A chances against, which we kind of live on as coaches. We were 18th in the league a year ago. We were 15th in the league this year with grade A chances against. So we were in the top half of some team defense. So improved, some positives, but obviously not good enough. I'm sitting here talking to you instead of preparing for the Rangers. So again, we'll look at a lot of different things, but if we want to keep pushing this forward, and I appreciate the extra offense, I appreciate the improved special teams, but if you want to be a real contender, it's still going to be about keeping out of your net.
What if you studied that 7-game skid beyond just not having Dylan?
Yeah, I'd have to reflect more back on that. Maybe even watch those games exactly back. Obviously, not having Dylan, it was a big part of it. You don't have to be the most expert hockey mind to see. I mean, I saw a stat we're 100, just over 100-point team with Dylan in our lineup. We're picking first overall with him out of our lineup if you're going to project wins and losses. So it's just probably where we're at. Our depth, our center depth, it was a tough player to lose when he's playing 22 minutes. Now he's playing 22 minutes. He's driving us for 22 minutes. But, again, it's still one player. It's a team sport. Could have got a little more out of probably some areas. So, of course, that'll be a reflection. I think we were 4-10 without him. I consider it 4-11. One of his injuries happened early, in which we ended up being tied 1-1 right after his injury. So that was a tough one. Hopefully with some added depth and some other guys driving us, we can absorb an injury like that going forward.
Do you ever think about the defensive improvements that still need to happen? How much of that do you think can come from the group that's coming back next year, and how much will have to be personnel that has that as well?
Yeah, I think personnel, that'll be Steve. I think Steve did a phenomenal job in adding some pieces. Again, we wouldn't be talking about being on the cusp or improving 11 points if Steve again didn't fill some holes within our lineup. But you saw, you probably asked the question, with a little of our DNA, I'm not going to say we sacrificed some defense for some offense, but we had 2 18-goal scorers on our fourth line. We just had a lot of guys throughout our lineup where their DNA was to score goals, and we needed them. And there was a lot of nights we appreciated them, but you can also see a lot of our forwards, defense first is maybe not their DNA, but I give a lot of them credit in that it became their DNA when they started caring about winning and playing for the team and trying to play the right way. So I think it's probably a little bit of both. There's no doubt with just our core coming back, of course we can improve defensively. We're going to have to learn to improve defensively. I think young guys take their steps defensively. Even our key core guys, Lucas Raymond, still a minus player. He's going to improve in that area. Simon Edmondson, phenomenal for us down the stretch. Some things found him too. That's part of being a young player. So I think there will be some growth within the group. But of course, I'm talking about taking the next step. You would like to build around some defensive DNA. I hope we get that. Even within the group, you look at the change we had in our group when Rass, Kopp, and Fisher took a lot of pride in shutting down some top lines. They produced some wins for us. So, maybe a little more of that in our DNA, but, full trust in Steve and what he'll do going forward.
Derek, how much of the goals against was goaltending versus, the defensive play? Are you able to sort that out a little?
No, I can't. I cannot talk any more strongly about our goaltending. It ended up being a huge positive for us in a really tough circumstance. All three of our guys battled. Alex Lang was put in a really tough situation. James Reimer was put in a really tough situation. We talked about Dylan Larkin's first injury. Alex Lang was also injured in that time too, and Reims had. Those guys gave us everything and then some. Not only were they battling as hard as possible, they were winning games down the stretch. So, of course, you can look at underlying numbers. I don't know exactly where our goals against the Sabres ends. I'm guessing it's not going to be in the top half of the league, but win percentage on those guys. Even Villy's numbers were drastically down from a year ago, but his wins were not. He won a lot of hockey games for us. So I cannot stress anymore how proud I am on our goaltending, the battle. They lifted our group. So that's a tough question for me to judge. How much of it is our D-zone or defensive play or goaltending? I think we all can recognize if we want to keep taking steps, our overall team defense will have to improve.
Or mentioned for Husso to come back healthy. I mean, you were kind of
course.
projecting him as the number one.
Well, I think the emergence of Alex Lyon is very exciting. Huge kudos to our management group to have the vision of not only signing him, but to not rifle him through waivers. And that was something we discussed a lot, and thank God they didn't. Good vision on them, another probably feather in their hat on the big picture of things. But with his emergence, that's very exciting. Just want Villy to get healthy. Obviously, a Villy, Alex Lyon tandem, I think both at their best can be exciting for us. So, of course, I just want Villy to get healthy, get right, and go from there.
Kind of about his season, and he is obviously very proud of those tough matchups he faced all year. But as a coach, how do you kind of, having a couple days now, take a look at how he was used and whether that's the right fit, the wrong fit, as you kind of look at him moving forward?
It's a good question. Even my exit interview with him, we asked a lot of them. That's where we're at. It's probably why we improved so much is not only did he handle those matchups, how well he did within those matchups. Will we get a little deeper, maybe emergence of Simon, the quality play of some of our other D in our top four? We can lessen that load on him a little bit, potentially. But he's a one top pair D-man for us on a team that's trying to build. He's going to be seeing that the rest of his career. That's why there's such optimism about him and our group. So, is it a little unfair to him? Maybe, but you're growing. You're our best D-man. You're part of that core going forward. I don't know if that's going to change for him.
A couple of times, nobody expected this team to make the playoffs, but after coming this close, how much are the expectations raised going into next season?
Expectations are for certain going to change, and that's a positive. Expectations changed when we went 16-4-2 in February. Expectation changed when we started season 5-1. Expectation changed when we won 6 straight. Don't shy away from that. It's reality. You want to grow somewhere, we're going to grow. And, of course, expectations are going to change as we keep building this, and that's all part of it. And if we don't have the stomach for it, we're going to be in trouble. I have the stomach for it. Our group has the stomach for it. It's part of growing. So our goal next year is going to be simple. We want to build on what we did this year. We had a great start in my first year last year. We had a great start this year. To start the season, we went 5-1, and that was as simple as having a great training camp. And our goal will be the same next year, to have a great training camp and a good start.
Simple follow-up question. How come you don't want to say playoffs is the goal?
Because I really think playoffs will take care of itself. I think you'll find out. I rarely said that all year. We talked about it being above the line. When you start saying playoffs, you start putting outcome ahead of your process, and we'll never get there doing it. It's our process, and there was times within our season our process was amazing. There was times within our season it wasn't good enough, and that's, again, why we didn't make the playoffs. So I just think that's kind of coaching 101. It may be harder next year. This team will look a little different. It may look a little bit younger. We benefited from some phenomenal free agent signings and some phenomenal veteran leadership that came within some of those free agents that may or may not be here next year. We still have some holes in our team. We're not a finished product. We're flawed in some ways. And again, even expectations going into last year, when you said no one expected us to be here, I don't think it was a knock on our group. It was probably a credit to our division. I don't see teams in our division going anywhere. You look at the Buffaloes, the Ottawas. New Jersey was a 100-point team a year ago. These teams aren't going anywhere. They're only going to get better. And they're going to strive to get better. They're going to battle to get better just like we are. So just saying playoffs, we're not to that point now where it's obviously a given. We have to earn it, and we got to keep pushing forward for it.
You mentioned you need more guys outside Dylan who can drive this team. Lucas emerged as one clearly this season. Who else besides Lucas do you see internally who can begin to drive this team, especially offensively, beginning next season?
I think a lot of guys within that core. Obviously, Lucas was just impressive to see. I can't speak enough of him. I'm extremely proud of him. I asked more of him at the end of the year meeting last year. I asked more of him in his approach. I asked more of him with his practice habits. There was some really tough conversation, and obviously he did it. And we had that end of the year meeting last year. I asked the same of him to keep pushing next year. Let's take another step. Let's keep pushing this. I just think there's a lot of guys within that core. Simon Edmondson's emergence. I think obviously there's a reason to be excited about these guys. I think we've done what we've done in the draft the last couple of years, what GR is doing and what they're building. There's a reason for excitement throughout our lineup. So, again, really excited about this core. Proud of the core and some steps they took, but we got to keep pushing.
The next step for Lucas, besides offensive numbers, what does it look like for him next season? What is the next level for Lucas after what he did the second half of this year?
Winning hockey. I think he got a taste of it, what it looks like. The fact that he was one of our better players in these meaningful games down the stretch. His passion, his drive. I mean, to watch him score some of those big goals in really huge moments, but to see his passion within those big goals, that's someone that cares about the logo on his jersey more than, I think he mentioned it yesterday, he got lost in a lot of big picture stuff because he was so into trying to get this team over that line. So that's really, really exciting and pretty impressive to watch. But it's just a start, and we're going to want more from Lucas, and I think he wants more of himself.
Process, because at the end of the day, you guys had the exact same amount of points as Washington, who did get it. It comes down to a tiebreaker, right? When you talk about the process, do you look at the process was good enough to get in this year, or like how do you?
No, it wasn't good enough to get in. Obviously, we weren't there, And when you're talking about a tiebreaker, I mean, Rowe was the tiebreaker a couple years ago. We would have got over, now it was RW, regulation wins. And it's a fine line. I mean, we literally had the same amount of points, but a huge credit probably to Washington. They beat us twice down the stretch, and those were tough games to lose because we played excellent in both. Our underlying numbers said we probably should have won both of those games easily. We didn't, And those guys beat Tampa, Boston, and Philly. They play Philly? I didn't notice that game. I missed that game. They played Philly the last game of the year to get in, and we took 7 of our last 8 points. So probably a little credit of them, but as far as our process, it's tough. It's just, again, our process got us there, but there were some holes and bumps along the way in our process that didn't get us over. So, again, I'm really proud of this group. Of all the emotions of how that played out, you literally couldn't script that within minutes of how that played out. I'm gutted for the guys because they competed so hard down the stretch. You could see this group, it became more about each other, it became more about their teammates, and it became more about the organization than any single individual. It took us a while to get there, and that's why I'm gutted for the guys. They literally gave everything. I don't know what more they could have done down the stretch. That's why I feel for them.
When you look back over the course of the season, it's 1 point. Which game guts you the most?
No, honestly, I'm not. This isn't coach speak. I don't think you can think like that, because I even asked our guys not to talk or think like that. I went right in after the game, told them how proud I was of them. I thanked them for pushing this organization forward, but it's just a start. And you don't look at the negatives, because it's not right. We need to push more on the big picture, and we need more out of everyone. But for me, you can't look at that. Obviously, it's simple to look at the 7-game losing streak, the stretch in December, but it's 82 games. We won 14 games in which we trailed in the third. I mean, those are points we ate up. So we had our own 6-game winning streak. We won the season series versus the Toronto Maple Leafs. We swept the Tampa Bay Lightning 3-0. We went 2-2 against Boston. So if you're going to start nitpicking for points throughout the season, I think that's a bad way to look at it. We gained a lot of points in a lot of tough situations. So we went 10 games over 500 at home. We drove the passion of this fan base. They drove us to 10 wins in a row. You know, could we be a little better on the road? For sure, and potentially, but I don't want to be nitpicking on what one. And honestly, a single game does not stand out to me.
Dylan Larkin talked yesterday just about how tough of a year it was for him in so many different ways, and obviously it's clear this team is not the same without him on the ice.
Yes.
But how did you see him navigate some of the situations off the ice and still be the clear leader of this team?
I honestly, I cannot. I almost get a little emotional when I talk about Dylan, because it was such a tough year. I could not be more impressed on his growth over 2 years and everything he went through. It is impressive to watch. There's a lot of reasons for me to be optimistic with this group going forward. Him being our captain and him being the type of player he is probably number one. I know people talked about, he mentioned me as being demanding yesterday. He was being humble. I've asked a lot of him, and I've been hard on him over 2 years because I know we're not going anywhere without him. And all he has done is respond and keep elevating. So to watch him over 2 years, what he went through personally, what he went through with that injury, because as tough as it's for all of us to watch us lose 7 in a row without him, can you imagine what it was going through in him? And to probably come back a little bit earlier than being ready, and not only come back the way he played, and we turned it right around with some tough competition when he came back. So I'm really proud of him. I love working with him. I love him as our captain. But we need to keep growing together in a lot of ways too. But you can see his passion and what he's about. It's pretty impressive.
Derek, from the outside, it seemed like Patrick Kane brought a sort of a star quality, swagger, confidence when he came. If he's not back after this season, how do you replace that, or does it linger?
He'll be hard to replace. He's special. I really appreciate what he gave us, not only what he gave us on the ice, but what he brought to us in the room. You talk about star power, you talk about swagger, that's all real. I probably didn't anticipate the unbelievable human being he was, the unbelievable teammate he was, what he meant for a lot of our guys. So really appreciate it. I just think, we probably also found ourselves knocking on that door because we took a lot of overtime points. We took some shootout points, and he was a big part of it. And again, when showtime, there's something real about that. When he keeps doing it in those moments, time after time after time, even we knew we were eliminated early into overtime, and he still went up in the shootout goal, like off his hands, tink, like back of the net. Game was over. It's the DNA of him. So appreciated having him. I think he brought a lot to our growth, and he's to a situation where he's going to do whatever he wants going forward. And I just appreciate having him here and love spending time with him.
Derek, will you be able to look at Grand Rapids? And we don't know what's going to happen in the offseason, but it appears that some of those guys are pretty much knocking on the door. Some are out of options. It appears the team's going to be younger next year. How much will your current duties allow you to see what the Griffins are up to?
I'll be there on Sunday. I love the fact the organization hired Dan Watson. I think the world of him as a coach, but he's also a close friend, and we've worked together in the past. I have full trust in what he's doing down there. So I've watched closely all year, and I'll watch them throughout. It's exciting that they're going to be in a playoff situation. I'll be monitoring very closely with that.
Any particular players Griffins stood out to you this season? Obviously Simon, I would imagine, but
The growth of all of them. Marco has improved vastly. I had Carter at Worlds. Obviously, my relationship with the University of Denver, watching him grow. Albert Johansson is a puck-moving machine down there. And again, I know it's different, and Steve is an extremely patient manager, and we're all going to be rewarding going forward with it because we have a patient manager that's doing it the right way, draft and development. So they've all taken steps, and that's the way it has to be. So I don't have exacts or specifics. It's just fun to watch that team and watch them grow too. I mean, Kosa's literally just what he did, almost identical in the ECHL to what he did. Got his feet grounded. Now his whole game's coming around. It's very exciting what they're doing there.
do you anticipate the roster to be younger next year?
It's probably more of a Steve question, but I do anticipate. But I like youth. There's something special about youth. There's something special about rookies, what they bring the group, the passion, the drive, ups and downs with it. Absolutely, I loved Simon when he came up. There's even some times throughout the year I felt we might need a little boost, or we were making some decisions. I may have even asked for some youth, and that's Steve's job. He tempered it. He doesn't want to take away from his proper development the right way. So I anticipate us to be a little bit younger, but it's exciting for me too.
Sider's development. He's been PP1 at some times. This year was more PP2. Do you see, is he going to kind of settle in as that number 2 power play guy, or do you still see kind of PP1?
Great question. I think that's going to take a life of itself. He's done a great job with that situation. He's growing and developing that situation. Again, that'll take some time. That's a tough position, and it's a tough position. Everything else we ask of our D 5-on-5, tough position. What we ask of our D on the penalty kill. So, I think that's still a work in progress. Very, very capable though.
Alex Burkett's season.
I thought Alex was great. Obviously, his goal total, I think he wanted more of it. But at the same time, he got us a lot of goals. And even through some of those stretches where he wasn't scoring, he had chances. I was not concerned. What I'm excited about Alex Brinkett is he went from a minus 31 player last year, and our win total, point total, wasn't a whole lot different what he experienced last year, and he's a plus player this year. He added some more plays defensively. He had some more battles. He added some more plays on the wall. And I think even what Max was referring to is kind of hinting to some of the DNA of our forwards. Some of them are offensive first, and I think Alex takes a lot of pride in putting pucks in the back of the net. But you could see him buying into what it takes to win in the team game. So I've been very happy with Alex, and the other thing I probably didn't anticipate with Alex is he's a phenomenal human being. You generally like the person, the room likes the person. And is that important? No, but I think it is important. So very happy with Alex and looking forward to working with him going forward.
So many growth experiences for the team, but for yourself in your second season, how do you assess that?
I think I grew with the group a little bit. Excited about some of the growth. Unique situations for me too. You battle put these guys in meaningful games down the stretch, and we've done that. Meaningful games for me too. And I've asked a lot of the group, and I've pushed the group, and it hasn't been comfortable all the time, but I think being comfortable with the uncomfortable is all part of it and part of the growth. And I'm taking steps with the group.
Earlier, if Team USA were to reach out, would you be interested in going back to Worlds?
Yeah, I know some of the guys got that question. I haven't heard from USA Hockey yet. I obviously understand the fact that we hung in so long. I may have probably taken myself out of the potential on the coaching side. They have those things planned a little more in advance of this. But if they call, I'll go 100%. I've never said no to USA Hockey, and I never will. If they need me, I will be going to that tournament. Thanks, guys.